Hello everyone and welcome back to The Games Must Go On, a series where I completely ignore game developers that are only trying to help me. Today's target is Pikmin, because this game makes no sense. In this game, you play as Captain Almar, a space delivery boy who crash lands on a very distant planet full of poisonous oxygen, with only 30 days of breathable air remaining. The goal of this game is to use your whistle to control an army of plant life to do your bidding to regain all 30 of your missing ship parts by the end of your life cycle. But this makes no sense! This is because if you look at Almar's model, you can see his whistle is on the outside of his suit, meaning whenever Almar exhales, his air leaves the suit. But in contrast, whenever Almar inhales, unless his whistle has some sort of purification device, that poisonous oxygen that we are trying to avoid is entering his suit and Almar's lungs, most likely killing him. So in order to make this game full of snake birds and gun spiders more believable, we're removing this completely useless part of Almar's toolset and asking the question, can you beat Pikmin without the whistle? So without further ado, let's get right into the rules. The rules here are pretty simple. Because we're playing this on the Wii version, we're banning the B button to call our Pikmin, the C button to disband our Pikmin, and down on the D-pad in order to control our Pikmin. The only exception to this is during cutscenes where Almar automatically blows his whistle because we don't have full control over Almar. But with the rules stated, let's get right into the run. Even on day 1, the run's challenge quickly becomes apparent and it deals with Pikmin states. That's because in Pikmin 1, the Pikmin have 3 states that they can be in. Those being active, working, and faded. An active Pikmin is a Pikmin that is following Almar and that can be thrown at will. And depending on what they're thrown at, that determines whether they become a faded Pikmin or a working Pikmin. A faded Pikmin is one that's lost its color and is just standing around, not doing anything. These Pikmin can be activated by running directly into them. And lastly, we have working Pikmin. These are the guys that are doing basically anything, whether it be fighting an enemy, destroying a wall, or building a bridge. However, these guys are a real problem in this challenge because of how they transition. Now when they finish their task, they become a faded Pikmin, but the only way to make these guys active and follow Almar again is to whistle them. This means the only way a working Pikmin will rejoin with Almar is if it finishes its task first. This also means that if a working Pikmin is doing an impossible task, such as carrying an enemy with too few Pikmin, it will die from sunset as there's no way to stop it from trying to lift the enemy. But we'll talk about these problems more when we get to them. For now, just realize that we got out of the impact site with 25 red Pikmin and the engine under our belt. Day 2, we got yellow Pikmin, which are Pikmin that can pick up bomb rocks. And thankfully, these guys are pretty smart. Whenever they pick up a bomb rock, they'll actually come right back to Almar, not even requiring the whistle or for us to run into them as if they were faded. As well as, they're smart enough to run back to Almar when they place a bomb rock, which means they don't blow up and instead survive without the whistle. Also on day 2, we got the shock absorber and the external fuel dynamo, so it was a pretty successful day. Day 3 includes our first boss, which is actually a problem because bosses are one of the most difficult parts of this challenge. Remember, we can't whistle Pikmin off when they're doing a task, and a task includes fighting a boss. This means we can't really dodge the boss's attacks, which in turn means we're gonna lose a whole lot of Pikmin. The boss we're fighting right now is the Snagrit, which is actually pretty good because of 2 things. For one, it only kills 3 Pikmin at a time, which means we should be able to make it out with most of our Pikmin remaining. Also good about it is whenever it dives into the ground, it has to pop back up, which will reveal its weak spot to any unactivated Pikmin, meaning it's actually a relatively easy boss. This gave us the Geiger counter. But there's still some time left, so I decided to grab the radar and the extraordinary bolt as well. This gives us 6 ship parts, which is more than enough to go to the Forest Naval tomorrow. Here in the Forest Naval, we get our hands on blue Pikmin, which don't drown in water, which means I should probably mention water and fire hazards because they're way more deadly in this challenge. That's because normally when a Pikmin is burning or drowning, you can just use the whistle to save their lives. Here, when a Pikmin catches fire, it's dead. And that quickly becomes apparent when I started using yellow Pikmin to fight these fiery blowhogs. And that did not go well for me. But at least today we were able to get the space float and the atomic gear. At this point we have less than 100 Pikmin total, only having 12 blues and 11 yellows. So I decided to head back to the impact site to grind up some more Pikmin and to grab the positron generator. Grinding Pikmin is no problem. There's pellets literally everywhere. However, getting the positron generator is going to require a little bit more strategy, as it's housed inside of a Pearly Clam. The way you normally battle a Pearly Clam is you would throw some Pikmin in, wait for them to attack some, and then whistle them out before the clamp has a chance to react. But we can't do that, so I employed a different strategy called sacrifice. Yep, just sacrificing the Pikmin and doing enough damage to get the positron generator. And hey, it works. So we're able to leave the impact site on day 5 with everything we need. On day 6, we are able to finish up the Forest of Hope, grabbing the Sagittarius, the Nova Blaster, and the Radiation Canopy, giving us all the parts in the area and unlocking the Distant Spring. Before we go there though, we're going to spend a couple of days wrapping up the Forest Naval. On day 7, I wanted to take out the Puffstool, a boss that's actually very similar to a Pearly Clam. By that, I mean you have to attack it by throwing Pikmin onto it, but claw them off before the boss actually attacks, otherwise there will be tragic consequences. And here it's worse than death, as the Pikmin actually become Puffmin, Pikmin that try to attack you, which isn't that good. But there's a solution, it's just not to use Pikmin. You see, Olimar has 2 fists of his own, and by using them to attack the Puffstool, after a little bit of time, we can take it down without even needing to endanger our Pikmin. After defeating the Puffstool, I had a decent amount of time left, so I decided to grab his ship part, the Omega Stabilizer, the Gravity Jumper, and the Ionium Jet 1. Day 8 was a relatively short day as we just went ahead and grabbed the anti-dioxin filter. Oh yeah, and I guess we fought the BD Longlegs too. The BD Longlegs has to be the second most difficult boss in the run, and that's because whenever you throw Pikmin at it, it'll shake them off, and the Pikmin will start attacking the BD Longlegs' feet, which do no damage. This will inevitably lead to your Pikmin being crushed, and you running out of Pikmin, as they're all attacking the feet, and you can't pick them up because they're technically working Pikmin. This means we have to kill it before we run out of Pikmin, which would be difficult if we didn't have 100 Pikmin. With enough throwing, we're able to take it down before it kills too many of our Pikmin, giving us our guard satellite. Both days 9 and 10 were pretty simple, as we just had to sacrifice a bunch of blue and yellow Pikmin to the flames in order to get the analog computer and the Libra. But besides that, we're able to finish up the Forest Naval and move to the Distant Spring. Our first day in the Distant Spring is already pretty hectic, as we start off by taking down our first Puffy Blowhog, which was more than annoying, and then we tried to get the repair type bolt, which is up on this ledge. And that's a problem because the normal way you get it is by throwing Pikmin up here, whistling them, bringing them over here, disbanding them, and then grabbing the bolt. But we can't do that for multiple reasons. Instead what we have to do is we have to throw them up on this platform, and then throw them individually up to the bolt, which is a precise angle to say the least. But at the end of the day, I was able to get the repair type bolt, giving us one more ship part. Day 12 was a lot better, where we got both the interstellar radio and the massage machine, as well as more importantly, we killed a bunch of bull bears that are on the map. Day 13 also went really well as we were able to get the UV lamp, Bowspirit, and the Ionium Jet number 2. Day 14, we were able to get 2 more ship parts, those being the Zirconium rotor and the Gluon drive. Finally, on day 15, we collected the pilot seat and Cronus reactor. meaning we have 29 ship parts and only one remaining. This unlocks the last area, the final trial. All that's left now is to make it to the final boss and defeat him. Unfortunately, the problem is actually making it to the boss. In order to do this, we have to blow up a metal wall, build 2 bridges, and push a singular cardboard box. You can guess that the most difficult part about this is, of course, moving a cardboard box. And I wish I was joking, but I'm not, as this box is in the worst possible place. The intended way of you moving it is you'd throw red Pikmin up here, whistle them, make them follow you, and then put them on the box. But we can't do that, because obvious reasons. But hey, at least there's a speedrun route where you just throw the Pikmin over the wall in the first place. But that doesn't work because that just gets you closer to the box, it doesn't actually get the Pikmin on the box. Well, at least I have another idea. What if we throw Pikmin from the side? Unfortunately, they still can't reach, even with perfect angles. They might get close, but close is not exact. The only other option that the chat reminded me of is throwing yellow Pikmin over the wall, or getting momentum throws to get them to push each other over the wall instead. However, even with several attempts, I wasn't anywhere close. But I'm not completely out of ideas yet. Something I learned from this challenge is if you aren't winning, you aren't using enough Pikmin. So I decided to go back to the left side and start using more Pikmin. And throw Pikmin I did. That was until this happened.
Oh my gosh! Did you guys just see that? Oh!
Yep, by throwing enough Pikmin up here, they'll actually push each other close enough to the box to get attracted. Meaning, with the perfect angle, we should be able to get enough on the box. And that's exactly what I did. This led to a straight path towards the boss, the Emperor Bullblacks. Now I would like to mention that I am genuinely bad at this boss, but that won't stop me from using my new knowledge to help me. That being to use more Pikmin. And oh boy did I use Pikmin on this boss, doing very little damage, but eventually overcoming it with the price of 300 Pikmin deaths. But hey, at least we got the final ship part, meaning yes, it is possible to beat Pikmin without the whistle. So with that, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.